I will be your session moderator for today. Please introduce yourself and let us know where you're joining from, and feel free to turn on your videos so that we can see your lovely faces. Just a reminder that we are live tweeting and sharing content on our social media platforms. So please follow us, and our social media details will be shared in the chat. So just a bit of a background for anybody that doesn't know Digital Opportunity Trust. DOT is a Canadian-based nonprofit organization focused on leveraging the potential of youth-led innovation and technology to drive local community transformation. And the Going Beyond project on sustainability has a mission to empower youth organizations, youth-led micro, small, and medium enterprises, or MSMEs, and youth leader entrepreneurs to not only navigate the challenges of today, but also lay the groundwork for sustainable business practices. DOT sustainability team in the Growing Beyond project is supported by the BD team with two very important groups: our Global Youth Leadership Advisory Board and our Impact Makers Advisory Board, which have representatives present in this meeting today. Our goal is to provide sustainability-focused capacity building, equipping young organizations and youth-led MSMEs for raising and receiving funds, fostering partnerships, and achieving sustained business growth, connecting them with other implementing partners, peers, and youth leaders. So the session today is on your 10-step playbook for effective partnerships. And this is a webinar delivered by the sustainability team of the Going Beyond project, aligned with the mission to ensure that the sustainability of the project impact, but also our youth network. Our speakers will share 10 critical steps to consider when thinking about your partnership cycles. Towards the end of the session, we will have a breakout room moderated by our speakers and sustainability team members. So please prepare to be active and participate in this session. I'd like to now welcome Emma Edwards and Paul Mpokwa. Emma is DOT's Business Development Manager, leading business development and partnership building efforts for DOT's global office in Canada and supporting DOT's locally registered offices in Africa and the Middle East, as well as the UK. She has spent a decade leading strategic communications and business development initiatives. She also holds a graduate diploma in business from Queen's University. And Paul is also here with us today. He is the project manager of innovative finance at DOT, supporting the Seed Award program in Going Beyond. Paul brings a wealth of experience in entrepreneurship, innovation, and impactful initiatives. He holds a master's degree in entrepreneurship and innovation from University of Edinburgh. So over to you, Paul and Emma. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Sarah, for the warm and lovely introduction. Hi, everyone. So yes, I am Emma. I'm the Business Development Manager at DOT. And as the Business Development Manager, you can imagine that 95% of my day-to-day activities are focused on the partnership life cycle, from forming new connections, maintaining them, and converting them into projects. But I'm also the sustainability lead for the Going Beyond project, driving our efforts to ensure the sustainability of the project impact. And as Sarah said, our youth network, which is a key focus of DOT through our decades of work, as well as a key interest of the MasterCard Foundation. So through the BD team, with the support of GY Lab and our Impact Makers Advisory Board, we're going to be providing support for sustainability. And we're all here today for this webinar. So hopefully you get some good bits of information that you can take into your day-to-day activities as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Emma. So what Emma and I have done is we've put our heads together and realized that whether we are building partnerships with a corporation, government, funder, or other nonprofit, as part of our roles and responsibilities, there's just some key learnings about the care and feeding of partnerships that we've pulled out from our own experiences, first of all, but also that of other colleagues, a combined 45 plus years of experience of running social enterprises, NGOs, and organizations. And we've outlined our 10-step playbook for effective partnerships. We have a handout that you'll get access to after this session, and there won't be a quiz later, so you can relax for now. But we would like to hear about your experiences and also have a dialogue with all of you. So we'll be saving time for breakout rooms just at the end.
All right.
Emma,
So I guess without further ado, let's get into our 10 steps. So lesson number one, or step number one, is to prepare, prepare, prepare. From Dot's perspective, developing a partnership starts with doing your homework to really understand as much as you can about the prospective partner's business, organization, or department prior to meeting them. Reviewing recent news articles about the organization that share both the good and maybe the bad, evaluating their new as well as recent initiatives or long-standing initiatives, looking at their social media to see what they're talking about and what their followers and even their critics are saying. And if they're a public company, like in the private sector, check their stock price, check their financial records, see what they're doing, what type of funds they have available. But it's really important to understand their priorities and their pressures and how you will fit in with all of those things.
thank you, Emma. I totally agree with that. But just something to add is that as you prepare, you want to learn as much as you can about what is driving them, your potential partners, especially in the current market. And do this every time prior to meeting with them. You want to understand their focus, their interest areas, what is their approach to corporate social responsibility, or just impact overall. These are the things that you want to keep in mind as you prepare, which is the very next step or first lesson. Now, to transition to the second lesson, or lesson number two, or step number two is know thyself. And what we mean here is that be prepared to express your value proposition in a way that demonstrates how and where the touch points are with those of your partner and the clients or customers or publics that they serve. Am I anything to add there?
Lots to add. I think what's most important, what I've learned personally, through the 4 or so years of doing this work with Dot, and 4 years of doing this work before Dot, is confidence. So be confident when you know yourself and know your offering, and you bring these conversations to the negotiation table. The table can sometimes feel tilted, like in traditional donor and doer relationships. But we need to remember that all of us, all of our NGOs or organizations have something of great value to offer, and an ability to deliver social impact. And that's why that partner is interested in meeting us at the table, even if the table feels slightly unbalanced. The opportunity to reach a new market might be of interest to them. And if that's what you're offering, bring that, use that to your power. And a trusted relationship and understanding and experience of how to best deliver what's needed on the ground, and a halo effect for your partner, for the stakeholders that they're concerned with as well, their donors, their investors, their customers, their employees. All of those things create a package that makes you able to tilt the table in your favor. But we don't want a tilted table all the time. And so lesson number three is all about having clearly defined mutual goals. So in this step, it's all about making sure that before you approach your partner, you know what you want to get from the partnership, what the partner can bring to your organization, and how it can help you achieve your goals. Also, what value you can bring to the partner, and fully listen to what would make this an all-around win for you and your partner. At the end of the day, Partnerships should be win-win-win. I say that for a win for you, a win for the partner, and the win for the people that you're trying to serve. Paul, anything you want to add there?
Yeah, just coming to think of it is that sometimes you gotta be willing to walk away, especially if the partnership doesn't feel right for you. Sometimes people are looking for partnerships that do not involve enough financial support, or what they're proposing is too heavy lift in terms of staff time for what they're providing. But coming to think of it also, what the sector really needs is investment, not just busy work. Creating a major, for instance, employee engagement opportunity for a company without sufficient funding for work is just not part of our mission.
Thanks, Paul. I also, with what you've shared, I have a reflection of an example of this in an early corporate partnership that was established with Dot before any of our times when we were employees of Dot. But some interesting Dot history for some attendees. So once upon a time, there was a corporate partner that was interested in working with our youth network. But at the time, the fit wasn't necessarily quite right. Um, there was just some misalignment, but we stayed true to our role in this potential partnership by ensuring that we remained the intermediary and stayed true to our focus, our mission, and our why. They wanted to grow tech markets, but we wanted to make sure that we were continuing to help communities and help young people in those communities. So, where we had to kind of sort out where we were going was finding the mutual benefit and the market opportunities while supporting our why. And so we did end up turning this into to mutual benefit. But by going into the conversation, having the mindset that it can be win-win all around, and understanding the vision and the goals of the partner, we were able to achieve this. And part two of this tip is also to know what you want to do for them and what they can do for you. Surprisingly, this has happened many times at Dot, and again, more recently in our history books. In exploring a relationship with a partner, there was interest and some alignment, but staying true to ourselves and our mission and sticking with our contextual knowledge and our prospective partner, and through those conversations, eventually came to see the value in our approach and what Dot does. And we co-created a concept that upholds our why, but also achieves their objectives, which is a great way to transition into lesson number 4, which is to co-create. So give your partners, whether they're government, corporate, philanthropic, etc., the opportunity to further their understanding of your respective work, growth pains, challenges, and establish these as opportunities to co-create new or innovative ways to work together. An example of this could be tech companies that want to introduce new tech, but working with us to explore how can we create something together that doesn't exist before? How can we work to get together to create a more powerful solution?
Yes, Emma, I think I love this point or this lesson so much because we've always in a way explored opportunities for partners to hear about our partnerships and co-create even more broadly. We're massive fans of co-design here at Dot, as many of you may already know. The Going Beyond project was co-designed with the perspectives and voices of those we're trying to serve. Also, we found that sharing our major challenges, even if they do not seem to be related to this particular initiative, can lead to extraordinary solutions, and have joined alliances, coalitions, and networks to be able to share these types of learnings. So, this is a big one. Yeah.
And I think also moving into common shared understandings, co-creation will always lead to something more powerful and potentially with even greater impact. If it's just about the check or the money, there is going to be a maintaining of a power imbalance. And especially, I think we're all seeing this right now with so much critical work to be done in the world. You can go into that room knowing that the work you're doing is important and necessary and really working together with that partner to co-create something that elevates that to the next level.
Thank you so much, Emma. So we're transitioning now to lesson number 5 in building effective partnerships. And this is look for partners or leaders with an activist mindset. The most effective partners are those who want to create positive social change and see themselves and their organizations in positions to advocate for and engage in making these changes. They have an activist mindset, an interest in making also the investment in the outcomes that they want to see, in the things that they want to change. Emma?
I think also in the early days of fundraising and partnership development, we always used to think, go to the CEO, go to the ultimate decision maker. But we've seen even more so recently, a lot of companies have changed and many are now purpose-led. And when they build doing good into their strategies, whether it's the CSR strategies or if they're doing it as part of their employee recruitment packages, um, which you can learn about as you prepare. You can find corporate entrepreneurs and champions within those organizations who can really help move things forward. And just a little sidebar here, a significant amount of projects in Dot's world that have been going on through partners for more than 20 years have been moved forward by a lot of these entrepreneur types. So really, among donors, finding those interested in systems change or youth-led change or whatever your model and what your vision for change represents, finding the right advocates in an organization is key. And we always look for people, champions, who get DOT. And that's one of our benchmarks for assessing the success of a potential partnership is, do they get DOT? An example of this could be, again, from Dot's history book. In post Hurricane Katrina, Mississippi, in the US, there was a company that assigned 12 fellows at the time to Dot to provide support to education systems. They were all super passionate and cared about the work that they were doing. And in light of this, they actually took reduced salaries and spent a year doing this work. The benefits of this included, they were able to go to these communities and have two-way learning experiences, but they'd also increased pride in their work and pride with the company that they were employed by. Wow. And so while Dot has kind of shifted away from this model of our flagship way of working, now we're kind of doing youth-led digital skills at scale. Oftentimes, when we are exploring partnerships, we are often approached by individuals who are curious about how they can include their employees in action-oriented impact. Paul,
Thank you.
I think you have our next one.
Yes. Thank you so much, Emma. But just to do a quick recap before we move on, we are at the halfway point of our 10-step playbook. We just covered point number 5. Just to do a quick recap, we saw that the first point is that you want to prepare. Lesson number 2, you got to know thyself. Lesson number 3, make sure that you have clearly defined mutual goals. Lesson number 4, co-create with those that you want to partner with. And lesson number 5, which Emma just finished, is look for partners or leaders with an activist mindset, because it just makes it easier to partner with them. They're looking for the same things in terms of creating that impact. So those are the 5 points that we've already covered. Now we're moving to lesson number 6. Consider language or culture. There are institutional or cultural differences between the needs of a corporate partner, that of a foundation, a fellow, NGO, government, etc. Everybody has their own standing, their own making, really. And there are geographic also, or regional differences in language or culture as well. What you want to be is aware of those differences and needs to make those, those partnerships work, especially provided that they are in sync with your organization, or maybe sometimes not. Emma?
And I think it's so interesting because you don't really realize how language and culture comes into play until sometimes you're in the middle of a conversation. And so, when engaging with the private sector, the vocabulary is quite different than when you're engaging with the government, or engaging with philanthropic partners. Even between international development and social enterprises and the private sector, there is some nuances. Even the acronyms that get used, I can think of so many different acronyms that mean one thing for one group and another thing for another, but also the language that potential partners are using around what they want to see. Are they using beneficiaries versus participants? Are they referring to impact or outcome? Are they looking at indicators? Are they wanting to know about your theory of change or your logic model? And so having different partners who all have their own terminology is, complicated. Sometimes I feel like I need just a page of definitions. Um, but again, it's why preparation is so incredibly important. And I think also it's interesting to think about this in terms of where Dot came from. And the original Dot team all came from the private sector. So there was a lot of shared knowledge between the team, and a lot of private sector partners were the partners that Dot started out with. It was only more recently in the last decade or so that we got into government aid, or philanthropic donations. And while this served us really well at the beginning because of the shared knowledge with the corporate partners we were speaking to, we could kind of interpret community development for the private sector, and vice versa. And sometimes, that interpretation will be necessary going forward. But a pulse check on the starting point is always incredibly helpful. And so I think in line with lesson number 6. Lesson number 7 is genuinely to be genuinely invested and interested beyond the partnership. And where I see these two lessons connected is you're not just interested about getting the check or getting the money. You're also interested in sharing learnings and building that relationship. And so lesson number 7 is more focused on connecting with partners regularly about key developments and challenges that they might be having, or acknowledging their situation. Maybe if it's a pretty negative situation, offering moral support or ideas on how your organization might help. We always make a point to reach out when something tough or incredible happens to their business or to themselves, their families, or the city, depending on the extent of the relationship, which shows that, of course, we care about them as an individual versus them as a means to an end for us. But ultimately, we have, using this kind of lesson, we have built really long-standing partnerships with, of course, the MasterCard Foundation, but as well Cisco Foundation, UNICEF, and so many more. And so quite often they're very responsive when we reach out to them to share news about what we're doing, and they are open to sharing vice versa. Paul, do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I think this lesson is really important to be genuinely invested or interested beyond just that partnership. And because we've done this and we've done it well, I think it has strengthened trust and also, our collaborations overall. It has ensured that our relationships are not simply transactional, because we truly care and deeply care about each other's missions. And that means our partnerships, therefore, are meaningful because there's a foundation there. It's also about building genuine connections and also creating a network of partners who share a common vision. If you do this and you do this regularly and you do it well and religiously, you end up in a rather a community of people who share a common vision and who really, just are invested in each other's work, which is beautiful to see.
It truly is beautiful when relationships withstand time and
Yeah.
challenges and highs and lows. And I think aligned with this, one of the root kind of components that makes this possible is trust. And so Paul and I both felt that trust deserves its standalone lesson. So lesson number 8 is to build and assess trust right from the beginning. And so that means, being authentic in the relationship building, transparent and open in what your organization can or can't offer, what you need, sharing those things. But trust is really deepened over time, especially through, surprise, surprise, the co-creation process.
Yeah, and I think there's also, there's something about trust and gut feeling, sometimes just like you can tell somebody, has an activist mindset, you can also usually tell pretty quickly if there's an underlying sense of trust. You want to trust your gut feeling when you're having these conversations. Building trust requires that you also report success and challenges over time as you continue to, to work with this individual over the course of the project during the partnership as well. This is how you build a long-standing relationship going forward.
Yeah, for sure. And I think also I'm I'm a dot history buff, I guess, but I'm reflecting on some dot stories. And while trust does take time and you build trust by, experiencing together and learning together, and if you build something together on shared understanding, common knowledge, you will ultimately build trust. And a way that we've seen this be very successful and lead to a great opportunity for Dot is in a fairly recent conversation where um, honestly we we were not we did not do very well in the prepare stage of things, but by the time we had met with this prospective partner and had conversations, and they were incredibly honest with us, we were incredibly honest with them, and we actually came back to the table a couple days later with a renewed sense of purpose and optimism. And so it was a transparent disappointment at that point in time, really helped us move forward and really refine what both partners needed. And I would say set the basis for trust in that relationship. So very important.
For sure. Thank you so much, Emma, for that. Now I will go to lesson number 9. We are nearing the end of our 10-step playbook. That was quick. Lesson number 9 is you want to build in regular opportunities for two-way partnership feedback, just like in any other relationship. For example, have a regular touch point call every 30 days, or bi-weekly, or weekly, or whichever works for you. During these calls, you can detoxify tough discussions, and you also want to use these opportunities to focus on what's going well for each other, and then talk about what you each wish might be done differently. I hope I'm not sounding like a marriage counselor here. You need negative feedback to find out where the weaknesses are in your models, but also to find out where the partnerships aren't going well, or even just to share new innovations that can be tested, new ideas. What are you co-designing? What are you thinking about at the moment? The first implementation year in going beyond within Dot, for instance, has been such a great opportunity to learn and reflect and update and iterate. And we have continued to test this approach with our partners to be transparent and to get feedback and to allow ourselves to receive that feedback. We've built these mechanisms to be able to receive regular feedback, and not just them giving it to us, but us giving it to them. And because of that, it has solidified our relationship and our trust. Once again, we've already seen in the previous steps. Emma, over to you.
Thanks, Paul. Before I move on to our 10th and final step, I would love to just pause for a moment of reflection. And, when reflecting on the Going Beyond project and the 6 partners that we started with in round one, I'm curious if folks have experienced the relationship development between Dot and your respective organization. And if you feel like there's enough trust where there is the ability to provide transparent two-way feedback on the success and challenges. I think from Dot's perspective, we're always wanting to learn and grow, but recognizing that in this particular situation, there might still feel like a bit of a power imbalance. And I'm hoping that our teams have done a sufficient job at creating spaces where it doesn't feel so imbalanced to provide feedback or risky to provide feedback. But also, I guess, just on that note, if you have a reflection, would love to hear it in the chat. But I do want to end with a lesson that's focused on endings, which is know that partnerships do have a lifespan. And that's not good or bad, it's just a fact of life. And so sometimes when priorities or budget realities or situations change, some partners do need to end their relationship. And if possible, of course, we want to help them to end on a positive note and keep the door open for future opportunities. And so in Dot's history, that has ebbed and flowed through different partners funding different projects at different points in time. So an example of this is Dot first started up with funding from the Cisco Foundation 20 some odd years ago. And they funded us for up until about 2010. And then that kind of settled for a little bit as Dot kind of pursued government funding or other foundation funding. And only within the last couple of years has Cisco Foundation come back into Dot's life as a partner. And so while partnerships have a lifespan, it's all a part of the partnership life cycle. And so everything is the circle of life and ebbs and flows with changes in environment and contexts in global politics, if we want to get into that. But it's okay. And that's where I want to leave this lesson is the lifespan is sometimes appreciated and creates opportunities for you to also explore other partners. Paul, over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Emma, for that 10th and final step of our playbook. Again, just to do a quick recap from point number 6 to 10. Lesson number 6 was consider language or culture. This is just important because, different partners come from different backgrounds or realities. Lesson number 7 was you want to be genuinely invested or interested, even beyond that particular partnership. This is how you know each other's organizations, understand each other's values, missions, etc., etc. Lesson number 8, we said, do you want to build, stop, and assess? Trust from the beginning. So you're not just building, take a moment to pause and assess if there's enough trust for you to continue with this partnership. Lesson number 9 was you want to build in regular opportunities for two-way partnership feedback, just like in any other relationship. You give feedback and you receive it for improvement. And lesson number 9, as Emma just closed us with, know that partnerships have a lifespan. Every good dancer know when to come off the stage. With that said, that brings us to the end of the 10 lessons steps of the playbook. But I'm really keen to hear what are your thoughts on what we've shared. Sarah will be leading us to the in breakout rooms where we can reflect, but also share our own experiences. And this is not just tied up to what we've presented. This is really us wanting to hear from you, your reflections and your experiences. Thank you so much. And Sarah, over to you.
Wow, thank you so much, Emma and Paul, for that very insightful conversation on the 10 key steps to effective partnerships. I know that now we have all the insights that we need to building effective partnerships, and I'm sure we're all looking forward to receiving the handout that you mentioned, the actual playbook itself, so that we can, put these 10 steps into actions when we are building our own partnerships. All right, so moving on to the more interactive session, the framework has changed a bit. So what we're going to be doing is having a 20-minute conversation as a larger group. And then, of course, this will include our facilitators, Eunice, Dawit, Paul, and Emma. First, I'd like us to go around, share your name, where you're from, what your thoughts and perspectives are on the following question. What is your biggest frustration or blockage that you faced in developing partnerships, and how did you deal with them? I'll repeat that. What's your biggest frustration, blockage that you faced in developing partnerships, and how did you deal with them? I'll open up the floor and then, we can have a discussion as a group.
Hello, everybody. My name is Eunice. I am a member of the Global Youth Leadership Advisory Board, and I'd like to start by thanking Emma and Paul for such a wonderful and insightful conversation. Listening to this was like music to my ears, and moving forward, I'm going to make sure that I apply all this. And the good thing about what you've talked about is it does not only apply when you are making partnerships with organizations or the government or private sector. This also applies to our own lives, our personal relationships with your boss at work. So thank you. Yeah, and on to answering Sarah's question, which is what's your biggest frustration or blockage you face in developing partnerships, and how do you deal with it? So I'll begin with my first point, which would be misaligned objectives. So when you approach a partner and you are not on the same page, you do not have the same objectives, the lifespan of that partnership is very shaky, because at the end of the day, you don't have something that pushes you, you don't have a similar goal, and you don't have a shared passion. So that one is a very big frustration. And my other frustration is lack of a portfolio. So when you're presenting yourself to a partner, you need to have a backup. We said prepare, prepare, prepare. And how do you show preparation? Post your work on social media, present your portfolio, so that when you're pitching your idea, they can see that, oh, this is what you have done previously, and supporting you will be an ideal thing because you will keep the good work going. And moving on to my last point, it will be the lack of funds. So when you approach a partner, of course, you give them a budget, but you find that in the current economic situations, lack of funds would be a very big blockage, because it hinders the formation of a partnership. Because ideally, if I'm coming to you for funds and you do not have the funds, it means that we are not able to pursue the goal of moving forward. Yeah, and that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Eunice. Dawit, please go ahead.
Thank you, Sarah. And thank you, Emma, Paul, and Eunice as well. Emma and Paul, the conversation that we had regarding the 10-step playbook was very interesting. It gives us a lot of insights on how we can tackle major challenge that can be faced regarding partnerships. To introduce myself, my name is Dawit. As part of the Global Youth Leadership Advisory Board here, based here in Ethiopia. Going forward with the question that Sarah has mentioned earlier. So the biggest challenge or frustration or blockage that I have faced when it comes to effective partnership is basically on two areas. These two are on the having an interest and being invested stamina within partners to go beyond partnership, to have that investment of one's skill and potential within that partnership is very crucial. So that's one critical major element, and it's been very challenging to have partners on that same level of investment, that same level of being invested on the partnership. So one way of resolutions that I myself and my team has been trying to engage on was to have continuous communications, so that clarity is developed in which we can align and support one another for that better achievement. The other one is highly related to developing trust. Trust is a bit hard to develop in a short period of time. But having that element within the partnership is a plus that could enhance our progress, our achievements by far. So creating that trust might take different initiatives, self-initiatives from each partner, and an effort to go beyond just preliminary communication. So one way of tackling this trust that we have implemented was through having self-initiative procedures or actions from each parties of each partner in performing and developing trust among each other through organizing different discussions, through organizing different initiatives and programs that could create a better environment within the partners for a better trust development. I think these two would be listed among my major challenges when it comes to developing effective partnerships. I think I could say that from my end. Back to you, Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dawit. We can also take a couple burning questions from the participants. If you feel like you have a question regarding partnerships, we're here to answer. Feel free to raise your hand and we'll bring you up. Yes, Wendy.
Hi, hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Wendy from High Initiative. And this session is very, very important considering our experience. So I'd like to commend the good and insightful information given by Emma and Paul, and sharing about our experience as High Initiative. We can say a young organization. Our biggest frustration and blockage in developing partnership, first is delays in getting feedback from the people whom we are reaching out. Sometimes it gets so hard somebody to get back to you after you have sent maybe an email or you have deposited some of your profile informations and all this. It may take a very long time. And even if you were planning maybe to collaborate to develop a proposal or to, as some of the steps are co-creating some initiative, you may find that you might even run out of time or you just decide to go by yourself. But really in your mind, in your documents, you know this person is this organization is a very potential partner to go about it. So working on this, for now, what we have done so far is just searching for introductions or references, searching, maybe you're coming to Dot, please introduce us to this person, tell us about your experience working with us, or try to introduce us to somebody who can also introduce us to another person, So that has been just initiating partnership that's the place where we find is very hard. But when you cross that bridge, maybe there are other things can just be a matter of just discussions and understanding. But I would also like to commend the experience that we have had with Dot. Looking at all these 10 steps, for sure, I can see that Dot is living these steps. Yeah, and especially in regular feedback meetings. Sometimes you should not think that you are maybe taking much of our time or disturbing by coming back to us, taking feedback or giving feedback with the work that you're going beyond. It is something very important. And when you miss this point of regular feedback, I think it might be a risk of other bigger challenges or bigger risks to be in the coming future. So that's what I can say so far. So that is our biggest challenge. Initiating partnership is something is still a very big thing we are working on. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Wendy. You're absolutely right. Taking the first step and having someone recognize you as a partner is the hardest part in building relationships and partnerships. Emma, would you like to share?
Yeah, no, Wendy, thank you for those incredible insights, and Eunice and Dawit, you as well. But Wendy, as you were speaking, I was jotting down notes because I had so many things come to mind. And just to say, even though Dot has 20 years of experience, we still also have significant delays in getting feedback, in planning proposals, in kind of exploring folks to collaborate with. And under the leadership of Nada Gawi, who is our Vice President of Marketing and Development, I have become a pest, a pain to people in their inboxes. And so, if I don't hear from them within 5 days, I am sending another email. I am reaching out again, and eventually they just acknowledge the fact that they have to respond if they want me to stop. So don't be afraid to do that. But it is, a challenge that even Dot and in our country offices as well are still experiencing. And sometimes we are also the perpetrators of those delays, and we are the ones who are taking time to respond and make a decision on a potential scope. Um, and then I loved what you said about searching for introductions and asking for introductions. That is so incredibly important and such a great hack. If any of you have been familiar with sales before, right? There's cold calling and there's like warm calling and then there's like hot calling. And so the cold calling is two strangers engaging for the first time, no history about each other. The warm calling is, maybe we've heard about each other before. Maybe there's some type of connection through someone else who we're both connected with. And then the hot temperature is we're buds. We've have a history of collaboration. We know each other. And so cold calling, I've always experienced as something that really doesn't receive a lot of traction. It's sometimes my emails end up in a spam folder for all I know, and I just never get a response. But the warm calling, the warm where it's facilitated by connection, has been so incredibly beneficial to Dot. And so just to say, if you're on looking for a partner and you're on LinkedIn and you see there's a Dot, someone from Dot that's connected to that person, please don't hesitate to reach out to that person and say, hey, Adil, or hey, Emma, or hey, Paul, I see you're connected with person XYZ. Can you facilitate that connection to me? Sometimes they might not be the right person to be connected to, but usually it proves to be more effective in building that relationship. And just to extend to everyone, um, building kind of introductions is not part of Dot's mandate in the Going Beyond project, but I know for a fact that any staff member would be more than happy to connect you to people if there's someone of interest. But we need to know from you, who in our world of connections do you want to be connected to? Um, and just to say, initiating is hard. It's hard for anyone. So we're all in this together. We're all business development professionals, regardless of our role. And so just, perseverance is sometimes key. But Wendy, thank you so much for those reflections. Definitely, I think maybe Paul, a step 11 is due to be added based on that. And then Eunice, I really loved what you said about creating a portfolio. And I'm going to let you know that is like a very sales oriented mindset of like creating a product that someone can dig their teeth into and try to understand a little bit more. And that's something even Dot has done in the past kind of 4 years is we've really created our offerings and our programs around a product that can essentially be purchased for a development impact initiative versus trying to fit and squeeze to every proposal or every partner interest. We say, hey, this is our product. Would you like to, fund it in a project that will achieve XYZ or achieve this part of your organizational goals? And so I love, Eunice, that point that you made about creating a portfolio, not even just a public one, but a product portfolio of things that you can do to create impact in your community.
Thank you, Emma. And maybe just to add, Wendy, going back to the playbook, step number 3, Emma mentioned win, win, win. I feel like leading with that always gets you that first conversation. So what exactly are you working on, and how can you provide value to this potential partner? And then how are you guys both going to impact your society or the populations that you're working with? If that partner really is interested in creating change, then they should be willing to partner with you. So yeah, just wanted to add that. All right. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else who has anything to share? No? Paul? Yes.
Yeah, just a quick one, and I'm not sure if we've somehow, some way covered this in our playbook, but patience. Do we have something related to patience in our playbook, Emma? No, but I feel like this is so crucial because sometimes, we humans are just creatures of habits, right? And we want things when we want them, and we want it now most of the times, and we don't care what anybody is doing, which state they're at, etc., etc. So I feel like I've had this experience before, developing a partnership in the UK. We were building an entirely new portfolio of partners in the northeast of England. And in our program plan, we said, this is what we're going to do. Right away, we're going to go in, we're going to get a partner and get out. So that's how we just built our program plan, and we didn't realize that it was just going to take a lot of time. And we've talked about trust in our playbook, and we needed to develop trust, with those potential partners. So it ended up taking us about 4 months until we signed an MOU. This is something that we didn't account for, in our program plan. So we had to go back to the funder and explain that, oh, this partnership thing is really hard and it takes time. So can we get more time to implement the project? So that was a valuable lesson to me and the team as well, that, start early, be patient, don't rush anybody. Just because you've got certain priorities and timelines and a project to deliver doesn't mean your potential partner has those priorities in mind as well. So you've got to sell it to them. You've got to pitch it to them. They have to believe. You have to develop that sense of trust until, they put ink on paper and say like, okay, now we can collaborate. It might take time, and that's just the nature of the beast, I guess. I don't know if anybody has experienced something similar to that.
Hi,
Yes,
everyone. I'll just jump
definitely.
in that just to say hello. I'm just joining now, and I see we have a somewhat smaller group, but in many ways that's good too, because we can have a very fruitful discussion. And so I'm listening in on the discussion right now. I think, Paul, your points on are very well taken, and it can take quite a bit of time. And even when you sign an MOU, there's still a lot of time after that, which I'm sure you know, in learning how to work together, how to trust each other, having those experiences. I wasn't sure at the time if you were referring to an implementing partner or a funding partner, but it sounds like this was like an implementing partner experience. Exactly, exactly. Because certainly funding partners can take a very long time, a very long time. And so patience is needed, but good points of advice. Good points of advice.
Thank you, Janet. Sarah, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. And I hope the conversation really did create that space for you to share and reflect. And thank you so much, Janet. We haven't properly introduced you yet, but I would like to take this opportunity to do so for anybody who, hasn't been introduced to you. I'd like to introduce you all to DOT's founder and CEO, Janet Longmore, who will be sharing with us a few remarks. Janet has a wealth of experience through leading DOT over the last 23 years, establishing an ecosystem of offices across Africa and the Middle East, and partnerships within the private sector, government, and community-based organizations. So welcome, Janet. The floor is open for you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm in the deep end, but it's wonderful to see some familiar faces and names, and then also to meet new people. So I'm really happy. Wendy, Henry, and Twambilile Emerge. I'm sorry, Emerge Livelihoods, if I've mispronounced that, but wonderful to meet you, and then to see Dawit and Eunice and Sarah and Emma and Paul and Abby again. So thank you all for joining us. This is a very important topic for our collective sustainability. When I think, and I've told this story before, but DOT's very first grant over 20 years ago was from the Cisco Foundation, and it was for 50,000 USD. And so we have now grown from that very first grant to a network-wide, certainly multi-million-dollar operation. But it was 50,000. And we had a relationship with Cisco as our partner that has gone the distance for over 20 years. We are now working with them in climate action and have done pilot testing in Tanzania and Lebanon. and are now moving to scale our pilot initiative with the Cisco Foundation across the countries where DOT works, and certainly with our partners in going beyond as well. We're exploring how we might work together there. And I do believe that the relationship with Cisco is a unique one. I'm not sure, and Sarah, you may know more as well, how many partnerships that are both funding partnerships and so much more go for over 20 years with a private foundation. So they are a tremendous partner to continue to work with. And the playbook, talks about trust. And certainly we know that our partnership with Cisco, the people we've met, we are in a very trusted situation with them. And we have been through a lot of challenges together. I'm not sure when the playbook was introduced that Emma gave some background. But this was actually a playbook we put together, myself and one of my colleagues. We're both members of the Schwab Foundation, so recognized social entrepreneurs with the Schwab Foundation. Emma, did you talk about that?
I didn't.
You didn't?
We've only alluded to Paul and I putting our heads together to create the webinar. So
Okay. Well, we adapted it, but Kyle and I did this presentation to many Schwab Foundation social entrepreneurs. And a lot of the social entrepreneurs in the Schwab Foundation, which is a sister foundation to the World Economic Forum, are later stage social entrepreneurs, if I may use that language. And the reason I'm talking about this is for everyone to know this is ongoing. It doesn't end, developing the partnerships, building trust, looking how we might co-create opportunities together with partners to drive impact from a funding perspective. It's ongoing. It doesn't end. And so it is with your commitment and your leadership to working in this space of social entrepreneurship and high impact in your communities, it will be an ongoing challenge. And that's why building our networks, developing trust, staying true to your vision and your mission and your passion, not being pulled in different directions, but really staying true to that. It helps to go this long distance, which I know many of you will be going and on this long journey. And there's really great news because there is a very, not even an emerging trend, but a visible trend in ensuring that certainly from a funding perspective, that funds are going to support those who are closest to the challenges and have the solutions. And this is something DOT has been working on for many, many years. We talk about shifting the center of gravity, and it's what we're doing certainly in Going Beyond and in other partnerships. We're investing in youth-led enterprises who are in communities. They know the challenges, they know and have networks in those communities and know the solutions. And I think it's a trend. It makes sense. It is the right thing to do. We're battling against many larger scale enterprises that have been highly successful in securing a lot of the funding that goes into initiatives that are dealing with youth livelihoods and economic development. So they're looking at their business models carefully and how things might change. But I really do feel strongly, and that's why I'm saying it is good news that being right in and putting young people right at the center of solving those challenges and leading in their own development, this will be supported, not just by partners, but by donors and other funders. And we're here to continue to support and help make that happen, certainly. Another thought I had as well coming out of the playbook, and we maybe touched on it, but it's certainly from my experience, and I can wrap with this, and maybe there's some questions after. But it's shifting the power balance in developing partnerships and particularly funding partnerships. And my guidance and advice, again, is really to stay true to who you are. We've talked about know thyself, to stay true to your organization's vision and mission, and hold firm as you enter into discussions with partners. Just because an entity may have the gold as we talk about it, that doesn't mean that they are in a position of power. And if you begin to feel this imbalance, I would encourage you to be transparent about sharing and just talking about in a communicative way that says, I'm just a little uncomfortable, there's a comment that's been made about directing you and as, with this money type of thing, and just be open and transparent and have that conversation. And that may open up interesting new opportunities that may not have been there if it was in this imbalance of a discussion previously. Combined with that is something to really be aware of in terms of working with ethical partners. And my work with Catalyst 2030, which is, I'm a co-founder, it's the largest movement of social innovators across the world. Ashoka is a founding member of the Catalyst 2030 movement as well. And I co-chair the Ethics, Values, and Principles Committee. And one of the things we look at so carefully are the number of corporate and other potential partners, and have a due diligence process that looks very carefully at their track records. And believe me, it's hard. So many entities do get involved in a variety of different things, but it is something, and I know that we'd be happy to share this process if you wanted to just learn from that or take a look at it, but it will pay off in the long run. It is really important that you come together with not only shared ethics, but shared value, and that you are working with partners who are working with you for the right reasons. And so that we can only see that continuing to grow. And in fact, back to the shifting power balance, that's some of the work that we do in the social innovation space. We have these conversations with potential partners who may not be, or may have a track record, whether it's in the environment or human rights, and have those conversations with them, be at the table with them, and see if there are opportunities to shift the way in which they work so that we can collectively come together more. So it's collectively, yeah, it's an interesting time. I really think so many of you are just in an exciting position, looking ahead, the struggles of finding partners and funding and scaling your impact. But it's all, again, for the needs of young people and for really changing and driving forth systems change that will, over the long run, make a difference. And the more players and partners who have that mindset that we can come together with, I think we are all collectively better off. So thank you. And I look forward to, maybe we'll do more of this, right? And reach out and gather more, because it's just nice. I'm going to pause now because just if there's any questions or listen more to the conversation.
Thank you so much, Janet. I think that was so insightful. And, the Cisco example is a great example of why it's important to revisit older existing partnerships, because you just never know what can come out of existing partnership or other partnerships that can be extended because of those. So Wendy, Twambile, Henry, Janet has shared that she will be with us for a few more minutes. So if you'd like to ask her some questions, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So please do feel free to ask her any questions. Wendy? I
Thank
see you
you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Janet. This is it's a great pleasure for us hearing from you, hearing from your experience and all that you have shared. It's not a question. I'm just acknowledging that even maybe as young partners or young organization, we should not be afraid to cross-check maybe, like as you said, like doing like due diligence to the partner whom we think we can work together so that to make sure we share values, because yeah, for sure, values is something very important. Or because if you might be working in the same sector, but if those organizations don't have same value around inclusion, maybe, or innovation, or all those values, integrity and others, it might be very hard to work together as partners. So it's not a question, but that's something very important that I've grasped. And I think we should now prepare maybe some documents and everything so that to make sure that as we are entering new partnership, to have those like a list of things that you be really be checking prior before we make any step further. Thank you very much. That's all it is.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely agree. And very, very, and at the beginning, before you proceed down a path, it's important for both sides, right? That realization and understanding that you do have shared values and shared ethics is important. Yeah. Thanks, Wendy.
Thank you, Wendy. Anyone else?
Just to hop in really quick, Wendy, you're one of our learners in the ODP program, are you not? Yes. Okay. You're on mute, but I think I could read your lips, and I think you said yes. And so
yes. I did. I just completed my course on 30th
fabulous.
November.
Well,
Yeah.
I think for next time, maybe we can work on creating a package for you for like
Oh,
your due diligence checklist
yes,
for
that is
partners.
very important. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. That is
Just to say, you've
very huge.
inspired you've inspired a new iteration to the ODP program.
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, always as young organization, we think like we are the one to be checked if we qualify for this partnership, but it's not something that's familiar for us to check the bigger partner, you know. So thank you.
Exactly. It goes both ways, right? And it is
I-
that. So why is that it's always we're supposed to be checked, but check the other one, right? So that's important. And even in subcontracts. So I know many organizations who grew Dot Lebanon, our operation in Lebanon is a really strong example of this, who grew their base through joining collaborations and then subcontracting. So it maybe the donor was USAID or UNICEF, and they come into the country with X amount of money, and then there's a lead, and then there's subcontractors. And it is a very solid way to begin to grow your reputation, demonstrate impact. But it's the same thing. So it's not just the corporations and others, but even who you're joining with. And if you're subcontracting, that looking carefully at both sides. And again, it really pays off. And I think partners respect each other for that process. Yeah.
Thank you, Janet. Wendy, great opportunities coming your way. Anyone else? You never know what Emma has up her sleeves.
I think everyone is just starstruck.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
there's a lot of ups and downs in a journey that you are all on as well, and I'm still on the journey. But there's so many positives as well, and the people you work with is just what will is the essence really that takes an organization forward and helps an organization to be stronger and stronger. And we're so fortunate at DOT that our network has grown, and the talent of so many young people and that we've worked with over many, many years are still very much engaged. And I guess that would be another advice, just and guidance in terms of the trust you develop in the people that you work with, and empowering them to be a part of the solution and the journey. It's exciting and it's really fun, ultimately as well. And that's important, I think, for us to have joy in our lives, even though our work is hard and sometimes in very, very challenging circumstances. But there's joy, and family is also important. Dot, right? Emma, Paul, family comes first. We often, and we demonstrate that, and Abby as well. We all know this, and I think that's an important piece of our values. Back to your point, Mindy, and how we all carry forward together.
Thank you so much, everyone. So I think with that, we have come to the end of our session, right? Once again, I'd like to extend our gratitude to you, Janet, to Emma, Paul, Eunice, Dawit, Wendy, and all those listening in. You guys have all added so much value to the session. We have all learned a lot, and we now know how to navigate and build valuable, effective partnership opportunities. So we hope that you found this session informative, and we're leaving with a few ideas. So thank you so much.
I definitely have some ideas. So even though I was talking a good chunk of this webinar, I also have learned how we can also better support Henry, Wendy. Twomby left, but Twomby also for you if you're watching this recording. So thank you, Sarah, for doing such a phenomenal job moderating. Thank you, Janet, for taking the time to join. It's been lovely. And thank you, Paul, for being my co-webinar speaker, and Eunice and Dawit as well.